What's the significance?
Phil, where are we today?
Vapouring Road.
And why are we here?
Because it's when people mention the Civil War in Plymouth, people naturally ask me about Vapouring Road. They ask me if it's true that the Royalist artillery were here in the Civil War, but it's not true. This would be too far back for the Royalist artillery. To my left is Mannamead Road, which in those days was the route from Crownhill. You came from Knacker's Knoll, which is now Crownhill, down this way, and you're approaching Plymouth from the north side. So if you look down there in 1644, you would see the Royalist artillery lining up along Seymour Road further down. Up here on Vapouring Road was where the baggage wagons were. I believe the baggage was here. People did their cooking here, their cleaning. Vapouring at their kettles was a phrase I came across in an old diary.
Is
Soldiers
that the
were.
reason of Vapouring Road?
Well,
Vapouring,
yes. People said to me, Vapouring Road is named for the Royalist guns, the smoke being fired off by their cannons.
But it's in the wrong place.
It is in the wrong place. It's too far back.
For the other explanation.
Yeah, it is, because like I said, people were seen. A man observed two soldiers in the Civil War over at Fort Stamford vapouring at their kettles. So that could either mean cooking or washing.
How many how many people would have been in this camp?
Thousands of camp followers, women and men.
Well, here?
Yep.
So
the Royalist army of 10,000 men approached Plymouth in 1644 September after defeating the Earl of Essex in Cornwall, and they lined up on this area.
So we're talking up to 10,000 people.
So mostly soldiers.
Mostly soldiers,
Yeah.
but camp followers as well.
Camp followers, women.
Women,
Kids,
children.
There were some children, yeah, because
We're
people
all
bring their
in
families.
this area here.
Yep, along both sides and down towards Thornhill. The Thornhill area was known in the Civil War as mentioned. It was an orchard further down towards Hyde Park. So
Well, what about up this way, Phil?
you're going back towards Crownhill. There was a lot of skirmishing here when the King's army disappeared. This was all open. The nearest royalist encampment was Hopton's Work at Crownhill, near Whitey Court. That was a prominent fort in the Civil War. It's mentioned quite a few times. It was built. It was flattened when they decided to leave it. It was rebuilt. Crownhill also had a gallows up there, hanging on the high ground at Crownhill.
So where would the high ground at Crownhill be, do you think?
Just as you go up over the Mannamead flyover now. On your right, yes.
That would be overlooking the new A38 virtually.
That's right, yeah, the A38, where Whitey Court was. In those days it was quiet, it was Whitey Court House. If you carried on down, you get to Plympton, Marsh Mills.
Why did they always build such things on high ground?
So you could see. And it's better to be on a high point to defend than on a low point, because people could come up and fire down on you. So, and you can see where Crownhill is, it's a good observation point. You can see down towards Plympton. You can see off this way towards anything coming from Plymouth. There were a lot of raids from Plymouth. Soldiers from Plymouth came out and raided, especially cavalry, raided this area because it was well known that there was a lot of royalists in this area. Soldiers especially, up at Crownhill. Make raids. So they come out and get horses, cattle, they'd steal horses and cattle. There's often reports of men bringing horses into Plymouth and being paid for it. So it was like piracy in a way.
So if we stood here back in the days of the Civil War, this road was here as a type of a road.
It was a type of road. It was nothing like this. No.
And if we were quiet and we hid, we could actually see the movement.
Yes. If you think, in those days, none of this tarmac was here. It was mud. And the more people that walked up, as you know yourself, when you walk along across a field, if you do it all the time, it's just going to create a dip.
You go down and down.
You go down and down and down. And the hedges were high.
Yes.
There were high hedges in both sides of the roads in those days. So you couldn't march up in a line. You'd have to march up in twos, one or two.
Because the width is not sufficient.
No. And you can't comprehend the difference today and in those days. It's completely different. People couldn't see you. You could be marching through hedges and you couldn't be seen. The Battle of Freedom Fields, 60 Royalist Roundhead Musketeers moved up behind the Royalist lines, up Tothill Lane. That high hedges, deep road. They couldn't be seen. So a lot of
it's amazing.
It is. It is to think how much history is around us and under us.
And here today on this lovely day, how many people know just what happened here?
Not a lot, which is a shame because it's all out there. The information is out there.
And I've
For
just
people.
noticed something here from a different age that I've never seen before.
Oh, what's that?
It's a stink pipe, I think, Phil.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Look,
yeah. Oh, right,
I didn't
yeah.
know there was one here.
Ah.
But it looks to me very much like a stink pipe for the sewage system of the day from like the 1900s.
That is old, isn't it?
It is indeed. There's one or two around. I can't see it being anything else.
Oh. Doesn't fit in with anything else, even the old lampposts.
It's so peaceful here, isn't it, today?
It is. You wouldn't think that this was a bustling little community of 10,000 souls.
So we're looking at this with green fields, aren't we?
Yes.
So if we
Green
just
fields.
stood on this little elevation here, the ground's higher here, isn't it?
Yes.
And I looked down here, I'm looking down a lovely slope down towards Plymouth.
You'd see Mutley Plain is beyond that.
Mutley Plain, Stamford Fort
Hyde Park.
is just about not visible but almost visible.
Yeah, you can
there,
just see.
just about there. And we'd be probably standing in the middle of all these people cooking.
Yeah, the
sleeping.
smells of horse sweat. Horse park. There's a horse park. There'd be a horse park here for cavalry horses. The smells must have been horrendous because those soldiers did not bathe like they do now.
God, what a fantastic
Military
history
camps,
here.
yeah, noisy, smelly, and there'd be fights, there'd be gambling, people were playing cards because the Royalists were not like the Roundheads. The Roundheads were very Puritan. In Plymouth, they were dominated by priests, and Colonel William Gould, before the King, at one stage, he was governor of Plymouth. He was a very puritanical man. He wouldn't allow swearing, gambling. Soldiers had to go to church on Sunday. For a soldier, that's not a good life. It's not a good life then or now.
What about the people who owned all the land here? 'Cause this was agricultural land, was it?
It was. I've not seen anything to this area, but down here there was Thornhill. There was a man called Thorne who owned Thornhill Estates. To the right there's Hyde Park, but we don't know. I've not been able to find out much about that.
I just wondered what the landowners
Sir Francis
thought.
Drake had a house down there.
Really?
Yeah, at Hyde Park.
Wow.
Yeah, Sir
I
Francis
just
Drake
wondered
had a
what
house
the
there.
people thought about having all these soldiers stamping over their fields.
Not a lot. Taking their crops, taking their
Exactly.
sheep.
Yes.
They did take it because you've got to feed 10,000 men.
Did they
and
pay
women.
for it?
No, not usually. Soldiers didn't
Live off the land?
live off the land. That's what soldiers did most of the time. They did pay occasionally, but the Royalists were well known for just taking what they wanted.
Because they were for the king.
Yes.
So
And
therefore
it was, they
had
said
a God-given right.
they said these people should not be fighting against the king, so they should lose whatever they
I understand.
whatever they. Well, you know.
Phil, once again, thank you very much.
That's all right. My pleasure.